I'm gonna do something a little funky today. You take a random generator. For a Pokemon type, an animal, and an object. And then you make a design based on those three things. We're going to find our typing ground type. Just trade on ground type. I'm excited to see what animal we get. Gopher. Ground gopher makes a lot of sense so far, so that's cool. Maybe the random object will shake things up. Sword. Ground gopher sword. Wow. Well, that is quite the selection, is it not? Next, we are searching up our references. Here's a little Goofy boy. If we make the ears look like a little hard hat, make this kind of shape to resemble a hard hat a little more. I don't know, something like this. I'm trying to think if there's any possible way to make a sword look cool. Unless if you want his mouth open all like... How do we make it look like a sword? We could give him a little mustache to resemble a hilt. The hilt of a sword. Yeah, what if the eye was underneath like that? That'd actually be kind of cute. And if the nose kind of resembled a hard hat. We can definitely have some patterning on the tail. Definitely kind of a stripe thing going on with the tail. Or should we have a pointy tail? This is a spiky little boy. I do like this big mouth thing going on though. So let's do that again. Maybe from a different angle. That's usually what I do. I keep drawing and then building off of that. And I redo the things that I like from the last design, and then I play with the other features until you get close with something. And this also kind of looks like whiskers. So it's a beard and whiskers and an eyebrow at the same time. I love doing stuff like that. And I like this kind of swoopy back of the head look. I don't know if we want to add ears to that. I feel like the no ear look. Oh yeah, actually. Like a stubby ear on the side. I like the looks of that. My favorite Pokemon tend to be the ones that look strange and they have a lot of patterns. I want to say Dunsparce is a good example. When you think land snake, Dunsparce is the last thing you think of, but it's really beautiful colors and the eyes are so interesting. Not necessarily just creating a cute animal version, a colorful version of a real life animal, it's going a little more abstract with it. But yeah, I really like the look of this. Now for the body too. How round do we want it? Like, how large do we want it? I'm thinking this is probably a basic Pokemon. I don't know why it would be an evolution. Either it's a basic or it's a one-off, but I don't know who would want to use this if it was a one-off. It would make sense as a one-off though. I almost feel like this is something that would come out around Gen 3 if you got stuff like Zangoose. I don't know, something about it gives me big Gen 3 vibes. And a lot of those designs tend to be a little more naturalistic. They have a very particular kind of vibe to them. Of course, Gen 1 had a lot of big open mouths like this, but not as polished actual designs. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think this should go up right to the nose. I'm just touching on really tiny things that I shouldn't be worrying about right now. I see if there was any way whatsoever that swords were more correlated with a gopher, I probably would have done more of a direct sword approach, but it wouldn't make sense. I like things making sense. So the tooth way is just the way to go, and I feel like he'd have a really wide foot stance like that. He's just kind of all out there. This is something Pokemon does really well, especially in the later generations, is simplifying claws, because you could make these into claws, or, you know, separate the lines, and that's something that Gen 1 more so would look like, but I really prefer designs that just keep things simple, and you just understand from their pointiness and the one thumb being the claw that, oh yeah, these are all supposed to be claws. With a basic shape, just to figure out where it is. If we're putting this in perspective, it's probably going to be a little closer to the body that the end is at. And then we're going to make it spiky tail. While we're on this pose, we should probably figure out what the pattern on the chest will be. I'm definitely thinking these parts are yellow, these parts are brown. Maybe coming up to a light blue here, but that's all in my mind. Usually when I draw things, the colors come to mind fairly quickly. But I'm thinking something like stripes. I mean, obviously that's like a little construction worker guy. So if you don't want something too generic, this is also to balance out the colors. So you don't just put in a pattern for no reason, that it's to either balance out the color scheme, or it's to balance out the detail. Because in some parts of the body, like this whole back here, we probably won't do much to. Maybe if we had like a brown belly or something, like darker brown and the lighter brown here, you want to balance out your detail so that nothing's too eye-catching, if that makes sense. Or it's too confusing to understand what's going on everywhere. So I think I'm going to do a back view. I think this pose a little more interesting. Because if I kept my head here and then I started working on the claws, it would get all muddled in this area, but if I take the head and make it look away, then I have space to place out these big hands, these big chunkers. And now you can see the silhouette better. And we're making it spiky because it's cohesive with the rest of the design, because we have the spikes here and we have the spikes here, so it balances it out to have a spiky tail as well. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this design. I like both of these drawings a lot. I think I'm going to color them. Strategy 1, literally just steal from your reference. I want this part to be a little more saturated. So I'm going to have yellow there, I'm going to have yellow there. And then a main body color. Be this whole area. Right now I'm talking about contrasts here. So maybe actually, oh, I do like these colors a lot, but I'll show you with this one, for example. When I think in contrast, you have grayscale, right? So this just takes away the factor of colors, and now all you're working with is the grays. So whenever you're coloring something, you want to make sure that everything stands out the way it should. So in this case, this is kind of my base color. The parts I want yellow are just example these parts. To make them stand out, we're going to make them a lighter tone. Like that, so they stand out against this. And then if we wanted, and I'll put here too. That's another thing. Reuse colors when you can. It's just way easier to eyedrop colors. And then, you know, if you want a darker color, I'll put it on this area. And the belly can have its own little shade. The chin. However far you want to take it, but this is absolutely how I think when I'm coloring something, is in terms of the tone, how light or how dark it will be. Oh yeah, so we definitely want this mouth area to be a little darker. See how nice that looks? This should be a little lighter. We'll just use this value. It is a lot of tweaking. A lot of tweaking. I think actually these should be the same color as the tooth, which are not coloring yellow, so we'll make it really bright. And then the nose bit could be darker. So here's a rough layout of how I'd like the tone to be, and then this is where we can come in and add, maybe we do spots on the back a little bit, or maybe we want this whole area to be a darker part, kind of like a pant line, which I don't mind actually. And then you could have another line or another stripe there, and that'd be something more you could explore in the back, like if this was all theoretically your pants. Then you could have another spot here, which I don't mind. Yeah, it's all stuff to experiment with. Also, in a design like this, you can get away with a zigzag pattern. I wonder if we almost want to do that like a some kind of shirt would have that pattern, maybe. I don't know. Patterns are so much fun. I'm just going to keep this here for reference because I do like how it looks. And we'll try it in color and we'll see if we want to keep that kind of scheme or change it. And as well, it's good to keep all your revisions of stuff like this. So if you have different color schemes, just make sure you're duplicating and then you're going over when you're making a new draft of it, because then you can go back and compare. I'm just gonna steal from the gopher again. I picked this color intentionally. I could have picked a, here's a little darker, right? Like you could have picked that one easy. The saturation here, compare that to this. It's very desaturated. In your design, you want some colors to be super saturated and some to be desaturated so that they balance each other out, and it just looks a whole lot nicer. I'm also going to make it slightly darker to contrast with the other browns, because if you look at the vertical axis on the color wheel, it's going from there to there and then up there. So we've got some really nice contrast going on, and you can tell as well because when you turn down the saturation completely, look at how much that pops. When you're deciding the hue of gray parts or really close semi-white parts like this, make it off something. You know, like just a little saturation. It can be the tiniest bit, but it's a billion times better than just keeping that completely monochromatic. It adds so much natural energy to it. Actually, I really like this pink. When you juxtapose this pink with this brown and this darker color, it's a really nice scheme. And as you can tell, reference photos, amazing. Real life is beautiful. Remove this. I'm really liking how this is turning out. No, as it is, I really like the looks of this. I don't think we need any more details. You know, there's a whole bunch of space here with just this one dark bit, and it has a lot of eye relaxation room. And then the attention comes over to the face with all this detail. You've got this nice thing here breaking up the darkness here. Like if we took this off, look at how much worse that looks. You just take off that one element and it looks super bland, but this breaks it up. And that's exactly what we want our details to do. So I think I'm going to make a back view of this little Pokemon. And a lot of people just straight on do this, but depending on the perspective you have, you do have to change things. Like if I want to keep these legs on the same plane, I'm going to have them facing this way instead, right? Also, here's another perspective thing. When I didn't do this perfect, you can tell this arm's bigger than the other one. When you flip it, like this looks fine, the way I was doing it, but you can tell. It's interesting. I don't want to fully change it because it is somewhat in perspective, but I think I'm just going to fix that quick. And this is what's so nice about working on a sketch layer, is you don't have to worry about messing with your lines. It just kind of exists like that. And because they're in a folder, I'm able to move the colors and the line at once. So it's just super easy peasy. So yeah, see, that's a lot better. His body's doing a bit of this, like there's a lot of line of action in there, which is super fun, and it makes a lot more sense now. Anyway, when I'm doing this backside, I'll lower the opacity again. It's doing this now. Right, so this arm's going to be closer to us than this arm. You have to keep that in mind. Because I'm thinking too, and I'll just do this quick, but the little whisker thing, like theoretically if you were to take it off, look all mad, right? His eyes are here. Here. His eyes would just look like this. Put on the line layer and we will color the back of this guy. But yeah, to rephrase the inspiration, even just in the face, there's hard hat elements in the nose, and also just a bulbous nose is quite funny, like a clown. You've got that kind of design logic going on there. The tooth is supposed to be the sword element in this design, but it also is just straight up a very sharp tooth, because rodents have sharp teeth, and as you can see, gophers have quite sharp looking teeth. Something we decided to exaggerate there. Probably the main weapon of attack. Probably even digs with it if it's a ground type. And then the whiskers, I'll just call them whiskers, that's probably what they are, but they are whiskers. They look like eyebrows, they look like a mustache, and they look like a sword hilt. All in one. If we want it like that, we could get away with this. And it kind of looks like pants. And here we are doing more of a full look, but we don't have to. And then that spot was what I was thinking, unless if we want to do a stripe of some kind. I don't know if I want to or not, because that looks really nice. But I do not want to clutter the design. See, this is where you would probably want to do multiple versions and then find out what one you like more.